beginning of 2013, I was working at a marketing company and I decided to go and work for Camp America. To do this, I went to a recruitment day in London and I met the person who became my camp director. Her name is Gio, that's her camp name, because the kind of camp I was hired for was a Girl Scout camp. And when you work for a Girl Scout camp, you need to have a camp nickname. My nickname was Milton, and that was because I did English literature at university, so I read some John Milton, and also John Milton lived in the village I live in, so I thought that would be a sensible decision. When I got to America, of course, I quickly found out that a lot of men are called Milton in America, and as a first name. But other than that, it served me perfectly well as a nickname. When I was hired at the recruitment day in London, I was at a point where you're walking around a room and all you want to do is be hired by someone, and everyone seems to have filled up their places, and I was so lucky to be chosen by Camp Molly Lauman. But at the time, when I realised it was a rural Girl Scout camp, which means you're in tents, they use latrines, it's all very outdoorsy and in the middle of the woods, I was a little bit apprehensive, to say the least, because I even still have this, a keyring on my car keys that has a picture of a woman lying luxuriously on a bed saying, "I love not camping." And I'd say that was a fairly accurate statement about me before last summer. Now I love camping. The highlights of working at camp, one of the weeks we did Eco Chic Week, which was a week where it's basically the opposite of what Girl Scout camp seems to be about. You try and use natural things to have a spa week. So we had things like clay masks and foot scrubs that we made, and one night was to have a charcoal face rub, because charcoal is apparently very good for your skin, and so we put this on the girls and it was very messy, to say the least, and they all lined up and I started scrubbing their faces and this stuff was not coming off, and they all looked like zombies. They had grey faces and they did not look well, and so we took them to the main building, to the sinks, and I just started vigorously scrubbing these poor 10-year-old girls' faces at 10:30 in the evening, trying to get this charcoal rub off their faces. It did come off eventually, but we were there until about 11:30 with me scrubbing the girls' faces and the other counsellors I was working with that week sending one in at a time so it didn't get too crowded. And during that time, my camp director came round because we used to do a sign-off every day that said, "How did your day go?" And on that day, I was saying, "It's going well. I'm scrubbing everyone's faces at 11 o'clock in the evening, and they're all 10-year-olds, so they definitely should be awake now." It was a mess, but it was definitely one of the funniest memories I have. Another one of the highlights was definitely when we were cleaning up. We had an awful storm because I was in Ohio, and in Ohio the weather is really changeable, so it can go from being mega humid and really bright and sunny to stormy in the space of about half an hour. And on our last clean-up day there was a huge storm, and a friend and I were reading the list of the jobs that were still left to do, one of which was to make sure the tarps were completely dry, because whenever we slept outside we'd sleep on tarps, and pack them up, but making sure they were dry so they didn't go mouldy. And the tarp was just laid out on the field, on the hill of the field, and was soaking wet, and we just looked at each other and we knew the thing to do was to make a giant slip and slide out of it. So we went outside, and because obviously all the girls had gone by this point, we were just cleaning up, and we just went out and there were a load of us, so we ended up just running down this big tarp and using it as a gigantic slip and slide. We got the washing up liquid involved. It was amazing. It was a bit of a mess, but it was just the best idea ever. It was so much fun. The main things I learned from camp is I definitely got more muscular calves. I don't know how that happened, but on one of the last weeks I was bending down to build a fire and my jeans split just around my calves. I don't know how that happens. I don't know how your calves are the part that is really strenuous for trousers to cope with, but I think that's the main lesson that I learned at Girl Scout camp, was how to be a female Hercules that does a lot of camping.